Quiet Craft Girl here, and we're back! And today I am doing a sewing video for you. This is actually a really simple and easy video for just a beginner's intro to sewing, basically. If you're just starting out, you're curious about sewing, and you want to try something. In my personal opinion, the easiest thing you can make in sewing is a pillow. It's very simple and easy, it's not hard to do, it's straightforward. So I'm making a pillow for you today. So what you're going to need to make this, you actually don't really need a lot. You will first need a pillow form. And now this also can be done with just, like if you wanted to buy just stuffing instead and stuff the pillow, you can do it that way too. But a pillow form is the best way to make a pillow. So you'll want a pillow form. It's just one of the ones I have laying around. You will also need fabric. Now today I have chosen a Star Wars fabric. I chose to do this one today because my husband's actually been asking me for a throw pillow for our new couch downstairs we just got. And he loves Star Wars, so I thought I'd make him a Star Wars one. Now today I am doing a two-sided pillow, so I will have two pieces of fabric. One black, one Star Wars. So we have two pieces of fabric. We'll also need our scissors. Any sewing scissors will work. We're going to need tissue paper. This is to draw the pattern for the pillow. Now, it technically can be done without tissue paper, but tissue paper is definitely the easier way to go. We're going to need our measuring tape. We're going to need pins. This is just my pin container I have. Also pins. We also need a pencil to cut out our pattern once it's drawn. Now I have just a preference of these are just regular scissors I use to cut my pattern. I don't use my sewing scissors for that. That is optional though. That is your choice of what you want to do. And of course we're going to need a sewing machine. That I have that in the other corner. I'm not going to show that right now though. And we will need some thread as well. Color, obviously, depending on what fabric you use. I'll be using a black thread today for the gray fabric. This is more of a gray-red, but I'm going to just use black anyways. So first thing we want to do, I'm just going to get this all pulled aside here, is we're going to want to measure our pillow form. Because we need to know how much fabric, how big we need to make this, of course. Now, I don't remember the size of this one. This one was given to me, so this is a 21. It should be 21 by this way as well, because most fill forms are square. So yeah, it's 21 by 21. Now this is not a standard throw pillow size. This one's a little bigger. The other ones are more like a 15, 16 by that kind of thing. This one's a little bigger though, so that was a different size. Now we're gonna get our tissue paper out. Now remember the number we measured. And I might need a bigger piece of tissue paper. I use, I know there is pattern paper you can buy to make patterns. Honestly though, I don't think it's really worth the money. I just buy standard tissue paper you can get at your local Walmart, dollar store, craft store, whatever. And I just use that. I'm just going to measure how big this piece is. Yeah. So this piece of tissue paper is about 22, so actually it's just the size we need. And because the reason that we measured it 21 by 21, but we need to add a seam allowance to that. So I like to add a ½ inch seam allowance to each side. So you need to add a ½ inch seam allowance. Let's see, I'll zoom in here for you. So, what we're going to do, we're going to add ½ inch so it goes there. So from there, you're going to go 21. So, going back up here, zoom out. Alright, there we go. And so we're going to go 21.5. And then we need another ½ inch. I don't know if you can see that up there. I can't. There we go. We're going to add a ½ inch to that, so we'd make it 22. So usually I just do a quick math in my head. What's a ½ inch on both sides, inch altogether, so you add an inch to your measurement. So we're going to be making a pattern of a 22 by 22. And what I just do is I measure 22 from the edge. And I'm going to mark it with my pencil. There it is. And we're just going to go do that all the way up, marking 22 each along the way. And we want a couple of marks because I want to make sure this line is straight. This is why I make a couple of marks. Technically you can make one mark and use like an edging tool or whatever, make sure it's straight and all that. I don't have one of those, so I just go along marking 22 all the way up. Now since I've already measured this and I know it's 22 from end to end, I'm just gonna go to the edge here where I've marked the 22 on this side, and I'm just gonna mark 22 up because we're going a little up higher. There we go. So now that we've marked that, now if you wanted to, you could use a ruler and just line it up and draw the line. But myself, I just use line of sight and I just cut it based on my line of sight I see. I also, another handy thing is too, I have this craft mat, and there's so many different words for it. Everyone calls it a little different, but this measuring grid on it helps too. It has lines on it. So a lot of times what I will do, I'll just do a slight kind of line it up with the mat underneath because you can see through the tissue paper. And we're just gonna line it up. I've lost my line. There's my line. Now the line does not have to be perfect. It can be a little choppy because that doesn't matter when you come to pinning it and cutting it to the fabric. Now there's my pillow form. Now I am just, technically you could cut 2 of these if you wanted to and pin it to each side. I'm just going to use the same piece over again instead of having to go through and cutting 2 of the tissue paper. Alright, so next step is we're going to get our fabric out here. Oh, this is folded one more time still. This is actually leftover from another project I did. I'm pretty sure I have enough here. I hope I have enough here. Oh, look at that. Just right. Everything's lining up just right today. I'm liking this. Normally I would double check first, but I was pretty confident that I had enough. So we're going to line it up with the edge there because obviously I just have enough. Also, I don't like to have any waste fabric if I can help it, so I always try to line it up as close as I can to the edge line with my pattern piece. There we go. Well, normally you would pin your pattern piece to the wrong side of your fabric, but for a pillow like this, I don't really see a point because it's square all the way around. It's going to be the exact same piece cut out if you cut it on the wrong side. So we're just going to pin all along here, and then we're going to cut out our fabric. piece is now all cut out. That was pretty simple and easy, especially since the sides almost lined up perfectly for me. Doesn't always happen like that, trust me, but that worked out really good. So since I only have the one pattern piece, I am going to unpin this all, and then I am going to be laying out the black fabric I have and pinning that to the black and cutting that out. Now, if you say want to make a throw pillow of the same color, like on the same side, just all one pattern, what you would do is you would fold that piece of fabric in half and lay the pattern over that. So that way you're cutting out both sides of the pillow at the same time. And basically it would just save you an extra step is what it would do of this unpinning the pattern, repinning it, and cutting it out. But since I'm doing a double-sided one, I have to do it this way. There we go. Just gonna fold that there, and we're gonna move on to the next one. So we have now finished cutting out both of our sides of our pillow. So what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be putting the right sides of the fabric together so that the wrong sides are facing out. Just a second, this fabric is hard to tell for me. Okay, so I'm going to turn it around. Oopsies, there we go. So this is the right side of the fabric. So I'm going to be laying this one like this. Now, if you have a patterned fabric like mine, that there is a direction, a certain direction it goes, like mine says Star Wars and it reads that way, you obviously want that upside down. So you want to make sure when we're both pinning and sewing that the bottom of the pillow is the opening. So it'll be on the bottom of that fabric. So that way, when it's face up, the sew line's on the bottom, and these words will read right side up. Now, if you by accident don't do it that way, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, it's a square. It's a perfect square pillow. So honestly, it'll still work. It's just ideally you want the bottom opening to be on the bottom of your pillow. That's all. So what we're going to do is we're going to pin our fabric. Now there's two kinds of ways you can pin your fabric. I pin my fabric like, here, give me 1 second here. Sorry about that. Okay, there are two different ways you can pin your fabric. Now I'm just going to zoom in for you guys here so you can see. Oopsies. Camera's not liking me right now. Okay, it's going to do that. Anyways, sorry about that. So, most common way to pin fabric is to pin it like this, with the head going out. There we go. And that way, as you sew along here, you'll just pull the pin like this, or you can leave it in. Now, I actually have a preference to how I have my pins. I don't like doing that, actually. Even though it's the most common way and most people sew that way, I do not. I do not like it. And there's many different reasons why I don't like that way. But my friend actually taught me a different way of doing it. And that is, we're going to make sure our fabric is the way we're going to sew it. So we're obviously going to sew our fabric like this, and this block of the machine being on this side, right? And the fabric hanging off the edge. And we're going to pin our fabric like that. And then that way, as well, we sew this piece of fabric, because we'll be sewing, so the fabric will be sewing like this, right? Like this, right? So the needle will be going down this way, and what you're going to do, which I will show you as well when we start sewing, is you're going to pull the pins as you're sewing out. Now that's just my preference of sewing. You can do it the other way if you'd like. I know a lot of people do, but that's just my preference. Now, there we go. Back to where we're supposed to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to pin all around. Now, I have determined this side is my bottom. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave a good gap at the bottom here. I'm going to only put 2 pins probably on each side of this gappage. Because this is such a big pillow, you want a pretty big gappage so you can get the pillow form into the pillow. So we're going to leave a pretty big gappage there. But other than that, all the other sides we're going to pin all the way across. We're just going to leave that one gappage at the bottom. There we go. So now we are pinned all the way around. Now you probably noticed as I was pinning, we have a little excess material around the edge here of the black fabric. Now that can happen sometimes depending on how you cut your fabric, or say you normally want your fabric completely flat when you cut it, or sometimes the little odd crinkle or fold will get in there when you line it up or when you pin your fabric, so sometimes you get a little excess. Now you can cut this off if you want. I will do so just to make my sewing a little easier. If you do not want to, you do not have to cut this off though. You can just leave it because it's going to be on the inside of the pillow anyways, so you're not going to see it. But for ease, you can cut it off. It'll make it a little easier for you while you're sewing your pillow. There we go. So now that we have that all pinned, we're going to move over to our sewing machine now, and we're going to sew this. Alright now, so we're over here at my machine. And so You can use any standard sewing machine. You don't need a nice fancy one and everything. That you can get a simple $50, $100 one, whatever, depending where you buy it. You can get them from anywhere, from Walmart, craft stores, sewing fabric stores, stuff like that. Yeah, online too. Actually, I think I believe that's where I got this one. And so you just need a simple one, because all you need is a simple, straightforward stitch. You don't need anything else. So for me, on my machine, I have a digital display. That stitch for me is 1, so I have it set to 1 already. I already have my thread threaded. All machines are pretty standard, the same, of how you thread your machine. Look for a link in the description below. I will be doing another video for that at another time. And so what we're going to do here, I'm going to show you a close up here. So we're going to be sewing our machine, and we're going to be sewing, remember, 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is our seam allowance, and that's how we're going to be sew. For me, it's going to be on that line right there, you see. And where we're going to start for that is we're going to start at the bottom where we have the gappage. Alright, so you see I have the gappage here, there's no pins, so we're going to start where the pins are. Right there. So we're going to line it up with that line right there. And we're going to put, and now we're going to sew just the standard for that. There we go. So we're going to sew 3 stitches. We back stitch by 3. You can 2 to 3 is what the standard back stitch, and then we sew forward. And so we're going to pull out our pins as we're sewing. Nice and easy. I really like this way of pinning, much over the other way. And then we're going to go into what you think is roughly 1/2 inch. There's no way, unless you get your measuring tape on and actually measure 1/2 inch, there's just kind of a guesswork. I do guesswork because if it's off by a little bit, it's not really the end of the world. So, and we're going to continue. Now we're coming up on the bottom again. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew till we get to this point on this pin. What we're going to do is we're going to back stitch again. About 3 stitches. And forward again. And then it's done. We pull up our needle, pull this back, and there we go. All sewn around. Now we're going to go back to the other table. Alright, so we're over here. So what we're going to do first, we're going to trim thread tails here. So we do not need them. So we're going to trim those off. And a little trick, actually, you don't need to do this, but it's another thing, it makes life easier. We're going to trim the corners off. And now we're going to be careful, though, when we trim these corners, because we don't want to cut into this sew line. So we're going to trim the corner on an angle like this. We're going to go with all 4 corners. And now the reason when we do this is because when we turn out the pillow, it will make it easier to turn out those corners. Whereas if you leave the corners on there, it makes it a little more challenging. I learned this little trick when I was making some of my plushies, and I had trouble a lot. With a pillow, it's not as bad, but it's just one of those little extra things. It's nice to have. So what we're going to do is now we're going to flip our pillow. there we go. There's our corner. Much easier to get out compared to if the fabric was still in there. There we go. So it's all been turned out and all the corners have been out. There's our two-sided pillow. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our pillow. Got the pillow here. And we are going to... There we go. We're going to put this pillow into the case we just made for it. Now, you're going to have to squish the pillow a bit to get it in there. Now, if you didn't want to have to squish the pillow like this, what you could do, you don't need to necessarily have this. You can have it completely open on the bottom. But my problem with doing that is then your corners are going to look funny afterwards. It doesn't give a nice clean corner like the other ones will be. So if we do it this way, I just squish the pillow a little bit to get it in there, and it works. Now, this is a bigger pillow. Yet again, with a smaller one, it shouldn't be this much of a challenge, in theory. Sometimes it is, though. It just depends on the pillow you get to. Some pillows, they squish really easily. Other pillows, not as much. There we go. And now the pillow form is in our pillow. And that's the basic look of it right there. There you go. And so what we're going to do with this, now, I know if you wanted a throw pillow that you could take the case off and just wash the case, what we'd be doing here is we'd be putting a zipper in here. Now, on the other hand, I don't really see a point of doing that, honestly. If I'm going to wash the pillow, I'm just going to throw the pillow in the wash. Now, if you have really nice pillows, like feather and stuff that you can't wash, then yes, for sure, you're making a throw pillow case that you can take off and wash just the case. But me, I don't buy those. I just buy these cheaper ones. They're just pretty standard. And so I just will hand sew this closed. And that's it. And to hand sew something closed, we're going to need a needle and thread and scissors. That's it. Find my needle. So I have my needle. I'm going to grab my black thread. So I'll be using black for this pillow. Hard to see, my needle right there. And my scissors. Now, to hand sew something closed, we're going to need, since this is a big section, we're going to need a good amount of thread. So I'm going to have a piece of thread like that. And then we're going to thread our needle. Now, see if I can get this to focus. There we go. Now, it can be challenging threading a needle. A lot of people use those little cheater tools, I call them, to thread it for you. On the other hand, I just thread it like that. Super easy. I don't really have much trouble with it. So, I do have one of those tools if I ever need it, but I don't think I've ever used that tool, honestly. Alright, so we're going to tie that into our thread. Now, make sure it lines up perfectly. Now you're going to double knot this. At least double knot this, I should say. Sometimes I even have to triple knot it, depending on the fabric. So I'm actually going to triple knot this just to make sure it's good and there we go. I'm going to trim little thread tails there. Make sure you don't cut your knot. And to hand sew this closed, we're going to be using a special kind of stitch that you aren't going to see. It's been called many names. Ladder, invisible. It has multiple names. I just hand sew it closed. I don't really call it anything myself, but a lot of people call it stuff. I don't. So I can't really get a good angle here. I am going to find a better angle for this, and then I'll be right back, guys. Alright, so I got a better angle here for you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick our pin in the fabric like that. And we're going to kind of a fold line you can see here because it's where it was, and then you're just going to sew along that fold line. And we're going to do that back and forth between the two pieces of fabric. Now my Star Wars fabric is falling apart here a bit, so I'm going actually a little higher than I should be. Like that. And you see how I'm going in there with the pin and pulling out. And again on the other side. I do not know why my Star Wars fabric is falling apart like this. This can happen sometimes on specific materials, but some materials are better than others. I used a flannel material for this pillow. I like using softer materials for my pillows and stuff because personally myself, I like to lay on a nice soft pillow. I don't like to lay on a rough pillow, so I use definitely softer materials like flannel, minky, silk all the time. Don't really work with silk very much because I don't like it, but soft materials like that. And see how we're just going back and forth and we're just pulling as we go? That's all there is to it. Really simple and easy. Alright, so I finished off now, and I do have some thread left, which is good. We want some thread left. Now, let's back this up here. See, this is how much thread we have left here. Now, I'd say this is the smallest amount of thread you want left. You definitely don't want any less than this. A little more actually would be nice, but this amount of thread would be good. And the reason for that is because we have to knot. So if you find if you didn't have enough thread when in your initial cut of thread, when say you're like say halfway down the pillow like this, here, this point or wherever, what you do, you'd have to knot it off, cut a new piece of thread and start again from where you left off. So, but this is a good amount of thread and we're done, so we're going to do, we're going to knot this. And the same as before, we're going to knot it like 3 times. Just make sure it's good. So what you want to do is you want to hold your thumb over the knot and against the pillow. That way the knot is the tightest as it can go against the pillow. So we don't want to be able to see or really feel that knot. This is also why you want it on the bottom of the pillow of the preference. Alright, that's another 3 times. Now we just trim the thread as close to the knot we can get to make sure not we cut the knot though. And with that, that's done. And that's the sewing. Now it's not perfect. It bunges a bit because I guess there was a bit of excess material or something. I wasn't sewn straight. But that can happen sometime. Another reason why you'd like to have this on the bottom so you don't really see it. Because when you go like this, you're not going to really see it. But that's it, right there. That's our pillow. Nice throw pillow. I'm sure my husband will love it. And it looks really good. Thank you for joining me. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll help do as much as I can. Bye.